Everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started just for the sake of time as well. So first of all, welcome. I wanted to put this call in today. This is not one of our regularly scheduled calls, but since we had seminar last week, we went over a lot of different strategies at seminar, had some great sessions at seminar, and I wanted to bring this to the group this morning. I've invited a bunch of people who are outside the group as well to make this available for them, because I think this will be very good for everybody to focus on a few things we're going to talk about this morning to make sure that we're going into the last quarter of the year with good intention and an intention of serving and growth, creating a team that serves our practice, serves our patients, and serves us in a much bigger way. So capitalizing on really what we want to accomplish as chiropractors. So we're going to be talking about implementing common business strategies into your practice with a matter of principle, with the idea that, we're here to serve, we're here to save lives, and we're here to take people out of this medical model and get them thinking differently. So that's the goal this morning. So basically, the way I want to start this morning and pre-frame this is it doesn't matter what business you are trying to create. It doesn't matter if you have a pizza store. It doesn't matter if you sell sporting equipment. It doesn't matter if you own a hockey arena. Every single business needs to have a vision. Nothing happens in business without a vision first. So you can't go into business thinking the goal is making money. It'll just never fly. That creates a level of burnout. When there's no mission involved, there's no vision, the team can't gather around something. So you have to have a vision. There has to be a problem, some sort of problem that your business, your practice, you as a chiropractor need to solve in the world. And the mission, so the vision is the big picture of the change you want to see in the world. The mission is how you apply that vision to your individual practice. And that's what we're going to talk about today, the application of that vision, the solution to the problem that you want to try to solve. So there's 4 pillars to every business. And again, this doesn't matter whether you're a chiropractor or you own a different type of business. Every single business needs to work on these 4 pillars. And that is number 1, lead generation. You need to create some traffic. You need people understanding or having an idea of what you do. There needs to be some attention brought to the business. So that's number 1. Number 2 is lead conversion. There's got to be a system of attracting those leads and then nurturing them through the process so that they understand that you have a solution for their problem, and that intrigues them enough to say, this is something that I'm creating some trust with. I have a good idea that this is going to work for me, and it gets them to the point that they commit to purchasing, they commit to buying, they commit to using your service. That's lead conversion. Number 3 is fulfillment and price and the delivery of what you do. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And then the 4th in every single business is customer retention. We have to fill the leaky bucket. So in other words, every single business wants to attract buyers, but more importantly, they want to attract rebuyers. They want to stimulate those people that are already customers to continue to purchase their product. So there's a lot of things that have to happen for that to happen. So here's the big thing, when there's incongruency with your vision and your mission, if your personal plan doesn't fall into that vision and mission, if your family dynamic doesn't fall into that vision and mission, if your team training and your delivery of what you're trying to serve doesn't fall into that vision and mission, if your office systems don't fall into that vision and mission, that creates an incongruency. And it's incongruency that is the biggest killer of a practice. So this is one thing that I would encourage you guys to look at today is identify the areas in your office where there are incongruency. And keep in mind, it's not just in your office, it's in your entire life. So, and I was always very firm on the fact that we were so adamant about what we delivered from a chiropractic perspective. The 5 essentials, we talked about people getting their spines corrected. We talked about them making sure that they were on a specific care plan, that their re-exams were scheduled, that we knew objectively that we were making some change as they were getting their spines adjusted. And we had a predicted outcome of success for every single person. the most important people in my life, which were my family and my team, I had to make sure that I was putting more attention on their care first, because I knew if I didn't make it a priority for myself, my family, my team to follow through with everything that I truly believed in and that I wanted to deliver, then nobody else would. People would see through that. So I would say for you guys, start to analyze who in your life is not conforming or not buying into what you're trying to put down. So if your mission is really to serve people, correct subluxation, get their spine corrected, but the closest people in your life are not in that mission, you're not able to deliver, or you haven't had the conversation with them about how important it is for them to be under chiropractic care, then that's a problem. That's a big problem. So that's a huge practice killer, is that incongruency. And it leads to, listen, and here's the big thing. It leads to depression. It leads to burnout. So if you're feeling that way, if you're feeling burned out, if you're feeling like your life is crumbling around you, if you've got bad relationships going on, marital relationships, child relationships, whatever, family stress, that is caused by the incongruency. If you've got staff turnover, if you can't keep staff, if you're finding that your staff are not buying into that vision, that's the incongruency. So these are practice killers. So look for those incongruencies. So let's talk a little bit about lead generation first. So lead generation, here's the thing. You might be the best chiropractor on the face of the planet, the best adjuster. You may be really good, but if nobody knows about you, then you're all for naught. I mean, you're not being able to serve your purpose. So you have to start positioning yourself so that the public and the people know about you. So in this day and age, I remember when I first got into practice, it was the early 90s. One of the most important things that we wanted to do was have a good, big, colorful, eye-catching yellow page ad. So, and I remember chiropractors would call their clinics starting with the letter A so they could be the first alphabetically in the yellow pages so that people would see them first. And it was always almost a race to who had the biggest yellow page ad. And you would pay thousands of dollars to the yellow pages to get a big, colorful yellow page ad. Well, now here it is, like now we're in 2024. It's really vital that we start to create an online presence. That is everything. People will search you out online. No matter what you think, people are going to search you out online, whether they're a referral, whether they've come from an advertisement, whether you've gone and done a talk, they will look you up. That's just the way things work. And so, and what I would challenge you guys to do is Google yourself, Google your office, Google your own name, and see what comes up. And is the message that's coming up after you do that Google search, is that congruent with what you want the public to know about you, to know about your office? Is it what you stand for? That's a really eye-opening exercise. So I would challenge you to do that. Go Google yourself. So is your website up to date? Have you got pictures on there of former staff members who are not with you anymore? Are you, advertising services on your website that you don't do anymore? You've changed your technique, whatever that is. So make sure things are up to date. Make sure things are, if you've got an old website that's got old images and not colorful and it's not eye-catching, spend the time and spend the effort, spend the money, get that up to date, because people will check it out. And if it's not there, believe me, it's hurting your online presence. It's hurting your online reputation. Have a staff member start to develop a social media presence for you. That is so important. And it doesn't have to be huge, but at least show what's on social media. That's something that represents you, what you believe in, what your mission is. If your mission is to go and correct spines and save the world chiropractically, but you're posting pictures of your dog on your social media, or you're posting a picture of what you ate for dinner last night, it's incongruent. So start creating a congruent image for yourself online. That's very, very important. Collecting reviews and testimonials and posting those everywhere. So here's a couple of ideas. If you've collected a lot of reviews, and I know a few on this line are really good at that, start taking screenshots of them and take those screenshots and put them on a poster board. And you put that poster board in a big frame with all these different Google reviews and put that up in your office. Or start having those reviews scroll across your website. I mentioned this at the seminar when I was speaking, is we had a camera in a corner of our office 24/7 that we could collect video testimonials all the time. So if somebody had a great response, if they had a positive thing to say, if they said they had a great adjustment that day, we would right away come straight out and ask them, let's go do a video testimonial. And we started collecting video testimonial after video testimonial. And some of the things that people would say when they're on camera were astounding. It was stuff that I'd never even heard them say before. We had people talk about how they had healed or were in remission from serious life-threatening diseases because of their chiropractic care, because of how coming to our office had changed their thinking, changed their life, changed their eating habits, changed their relationships, how coming to our office had saved relationships. It was incredibly eye-opening. So if you're not doing that, I would encourage you to do that, because again, that just leads to the enthusiasm and the excitement and the culture that happens in your office. Here's a little difference when it comes to lead generation with advertising. A lot of people ask me this, and now, of course, that we're in the advertising arena. What's the difference between Facebook and Google ads? If you're doing Google ads advertise to a very small percentage of the population, which are people who are ready to buy. So people that are looking for a bicycle are going to search up bicycle shops near me. So if you're a bicycle shop and you want to attract those people into your bicycle shop because they're ready, a Google ad will help you do that. But you have to have a really good online presence. So doing Google advertisements without a good website, without a good social media is really counterintuitive. So if you're a chiropractor and you're doing Google ads and somebody's typing in, I need a chiropractor in Calgary, or I need a chiropractor in Toronto, then your Google ad might pop up on their feed and they click on you, and there's a pretty good chance they're going to come to your office if it's in line and they're ready to buy. 3% of the population are in a state where they're ready to buy. Facebook and Instagram ads, on the other hand, are attracting a population that is not ready to buy. Keep in mind, when people see your Facebook ad, they're not looking for you. So if you're doing Facebook ads, you're advertising to a population that's not looking for you. And here's the big thing. It's a much bigger population. That population may be solution aware or they may be problem aware, but they're not in a state of ready to buy, which is going to lead us into our next pillar of business growth, which is lead conversion. So nurturing those leads. So here's a big thing. When we get into lead nurture, this is huge for lead conversion. So anybody who's doing any type of online advertising, if you're sitting back thinking that the ad agency is just going to do all the work and send in qualified people to your office who are ready to buy, you're really delusional. There needs to be some sort of lead nurture involved. So an advertising agency, and I can tell you this from firsthand experience here, can be really good and really creative about helping you create an online reputation and online presence, positioning you as something unique online. So people get interested and intrigued about what you stand for. So the goal is that they would click on the ad and then start the process to start coming into your office and setting up an appointment. That's where your office has to jump in and start creating that relationship. So lead nurture is the first step in lead conversion. There has to be some communication. So whether it's a call from your team, maybe they set up an appointment to go on a call with the doctor before they come in, the process of giving them the online forms. And if you're not using online forms, I'm going to encourage you to do that. It saves time. It's up to date. It shows that you're with the times. It shows that you're a progressive type of office. And it should be an online form, not a PDF that they have to print off and fill out and then scan and send back to you. That doesn't work. Too time consuming. There's too much effort involved. So an online form where they can check the boxes, fill out their information, phone friendly, because people are going to use their phone to fill out those forms. And that is really, really helpful when it comes to lead conversion. Getting prepays, if you're doing Facebook ad, getting prepays is huge because that gets commitment. And there's scripts that we can help you when it comes to prepays. So really important stuff. Because that allows the person on the other end to say, okay, I'm committed before they make the appointment, before they make the time to come into the office. It avoids no-shows. people that are not committed, keep in mind, if you're advertising to somebody from a Facebook ad, you get them interested, they're not really looking for you. Maybe the problem in their mind is not that severe. And then the day comes and something else comes up, they blow it off. They don't show up, get no shows in your office. So that lead conversion process with the lead nurture, getting prepays, getting the online forms, setting up a pre-call with the doctor can be huge. Your advertising dollars are going in the right direction. Okay, really important stuff. Okay, so that's the whole thing, is just the bar and adding value. Now, as far as lead conversion, there's in-person lead conversion. And so some of you might be doing some in-person lead conversion, which I really encourage, because when you're doing any type of in-person lead conversion, people start to know who you are. They have a visual, they can meet you, they can talk to you directly before they make the decision to come and see you. So whether you're doing some community involvement, so you can join some prestigious groups. Maybe you join Rotary Club or Kiwanis Club. Maybe you join a breakfast business group or whatever that may be. You start doing some talks at some clubs or some churches. You go out and meet people. You get involved in your church in certain ways. You become politically involved in your community on some levels, or join the sporting organizations, work on the board for certain organizations. Do lunch and learns. Lunch and learns are a very cost-effective way to get your way into companies and start making a relationship with companies. So look at the biggest companies in your area, companies that have more than 100 employees. Call the HR person and just offer to help. I'm here to help. We run the busiest chiropractic office in the city. We're here to serve your people. You're probably having all kinds of trouble with staff attrition or staff not being staff injuries, or not coming into work, or missed time, things like that. That's something we can help you with. Maybe your staff is not eating well. Maybe there's a lot of people that are out of shape or want to lose weight. We can help you with that by creating a culture in your office, in your corporation, to just increase the energy and increase the enthusiasm for health and wellness and serving. So we'd love to come in and bring you lunch. Can we, how many people would be there? Would there be 50 people there, 80 people there? Spend a few $100, spend $1,000, go in, do a lunch talk, and just share the mission with them. Share the mission of your office. That's really what it's all about. So anything like that, community appreciation dinners were huge because, again, it creates a culture. It shows that you're there to serve, and it shows that you're basically there to help the community sustain great health. Any type of special events like makeovers, or even opportunities to partner with other health organizations. So if you have some individual vendors for selling healthy products or non-toxic cleaning products or whatever that is, that's an opportunity to partner with them, bring them in to be partners at certain groups. You can have guest speakers in your office. But again, that creates the culture, which helps with the lead conversion and also will help with retention down the road, because you've created this energy in your office. Okay. Getting back to the vision when it comes to this is inspiring your team with this vision. The vision has to be very evident within your office, and everybody has to buy into this vision. If your team doesn't understand the reason why they're there or what your office was created to do, then they just think of it as a job. And when you have employees that just think of it as a job, that's when they're not going to follow through. They're not going to spend the extra time. They're not going to take their mobile phone home at night and call those leads that come in at 9 o'clock at night. They're not going to want to come in on a weekend to help out at a makeover or an advanced talk. Inspire them with vision, and when they catch the vision, they're right there to lead the charge. They take some ownership in the growth of your office. So again, really important. So here's a little conversion equation. Here's a business equation that when you're talking about growth. So let's just say you have 50 new patients in a month, and your conversion percentage. Okay, so think about this. So if you have 50 in a month, and if you're keeping track of your new patients every month, you want to keep track of every single new patient, every day one that makes it to day 2, every day 2 that makes it to day 3, and every day 3 that makes it to their conversion, obviously, and then to the first re-exam. So if you have 50 new patients in June, then if you have great systems in your office, great retention, good conversion percentage, then ideally you should have 50 re-exams in July if your first re-exam is at the 12th visit or 1 month later. Okay. So think about this. So let's just say you have 50 new patients, but only 50% of them, let's say 25% of them actually get to the care plan stage where they sign on to care. Well, how many of those are actually getting to the first re-exam? But here's the general equation that if you can have, let's say you want to grow an office of 1,000 a week, ideally 40 new conversions every month will get you to 1,000 a week in 1 year. 40 new conversions every month. And it's very linear. So if you have 20 conversions in a month, that'll grow an office to 500 people in a week, 500 people a week within a year. If you have um, uh, if you have 10 conversions every month, you'll probably grow an office to around 250 a week within a year. And these are assuming that there's relatively good retention. And so hopefully that makes sense. So ideally if you're not tracking your stats, that's one thing that I really encourage you to do. And it doesn't mean that you have to do it. Maybe you appoint one of your CAs to do it. And I was saying on the weekend, when I was talking to the group, is that we actually had a CA and I had the conversation with her and actually appointed her as a position. So she advanced or grew from a CA to the patient success manager. And I said, I want to promote you to the patient success manager. And she loved that term. But I said, here are the responsibilities of the patient success manager. It's your job to make sure that every single person who becomes interested in her office not only comes in, makes an appointment, comes in, shows up, and follows through the stages to convert and then retain them for a lifetime. If our goal is lifetime family wellness care for every single patient that comes into our office, your job is to nurture that process. And she said, I am the one. I will take every single detail and I will put this into action. And she was great at it. So I would encourage you, if you haven't had that conversation with one of your staff, and you'll know which one is going to step up to the plate to do this, but have that conversation with that person and try to raise the bar for their engagement. And so hopefully that makes sense. All right. Now, next thing. So when you talk about lead conversion, your vision statement determines your systems. So for many of you that are doing a corrective care type of practice, you want to see lateral cervical curves change. Your outcome is 43 degrees on that lateral cervical curve. You'd love to see scoliosis improve. You'd love to see pelvic unleveling improve on an x-ray. So if your systems are not congruent with what you're trying to deliver, again, that creates an incongruency. And like I said, incongruency is the biggest practice killer. So if you're doing corrective care, we don't want to have and we don't want to offer a pay-as-you-go type of system. So if you're doing corrective care, but you're still allowing people to pay as they go, that's an incongruency. It's an incongruency for your team. It makes it tougher for them. They start to question, are we really delivering something that is effective? So these are things that we have to address. So even if we have our care plan set up or we have some options for care plans, or even for people that don't want to jump on a care plan or prepay a care plan, maybe there's a package of visits they can pay for, at least a package of visits to get them to the first re-exam. Or if you're having trouble getting them to the first re-exam at the 12th visit, maybe you have a re-exam at the 6th visit. And the first package is just a 6-visit care plan to get them to that first re-exam at the 6th visit. Whatever that is, to start creating more congruency with people. So that, again, that's a case of analyzing what it is you're currently doing and does this fit into our vision. Define your new patient avatar. So if my goal is to have a family practice where I want couples coming in with children, bringing their kids in, are my systems congruent for that? Am I creating the office and creating the culture that is going to attract those types of patients? So remember on day one, so when it comes to the conversion process, these are certain things that have to happen on day one, okay? We're creating a good business. So number one, day one, we need to create trust. We need to create trust, rapport. How do we do that? Well, we do that through the nurture process. We do that through the CA taking charge and creating that relationship with that person, talking about their online forums. Maybe it's that call by the doctor, the pre-call by the doctor beforehand. We create confidence in that person because remember, people's scam alerts are up these days. People are very jaded by a lot of the scams that go on in the world. So they're very resistant to jump into something that's long-term or costly in their mind. So we have to create that trust. We need to create concern. And people are coming in with symptoms, but remember the symptom is not the problem. We have to make sure we have the systems in place to identify the underlying problem and create concern for that underlying problem. So these are all things that have to happen on day one. If we are correctors of subluxation, which makes us unique and really sets us apart from all the other health professions, there has to be an introduction to subluxation. There has to be an introduction to the underlying problem, and not the fact that it's just causing the symptom, but the fact that that underlying problem is affecting their ability to heal and function. It's affecting their nerves. And this all has to happen on day one, that if that problem doesn't get corrected, it is getting worse. It is a progressive type of problem. And we have to own that. Our staff has to own that. And we have to be able to articulately communicate that with the patient. This is an ongoing type of problem. And if it's just left alone, it will get worse. If you have a deck in your backyard and there's rot in a few of those beams or a few of those joists in the deck, it's not something that's going to stay like that for the next year, 2, 3, 5 years. It has to be addressed. Rot is something that starts to decay. It's the same thing in the spine. It's the same thing with subluxation. Subluxation in the spine is like rot in a piece of wood. It just continues to get worse. So we have to make sure that we have systems in place to allow the patient to understand that on day one. And then, of course, our exam and the consultation that we have to be congruent with that. So if we're doing tests that identify pain in our examination, but we're trying to teach them about cause, then that's an incongruency. So if we're doing orthopedic tests where we're, checking different ranges of motion and pushing them into pain and just reaffirming in the patient's mind that this problem is causing pain, then again, that's creating that incongruency and it's getting the person's mind off of cause and back onto symptoms. So analyzing what you do to make sure that everything you do is congruent. Pain care versus subluxation versus cause care. The day one phone call is huge. And I said this on the weekend, is that if I could suggest you do anything, if this is something you're not doing already, if you do nothing else, implement the day one phone call them after their first visit, talk to them about what you have found in their exam findings, whether you do an x-ray, whether you do any type of objective findings in your exam, talk to them about how you're concerned, how there is an underlying cause, they do have an underlying problem, they do have subluxation, and that problem is going to get worse if it's not corrected, but give hope. The good news is that it's absolutely something I can help you with. It will take time. It's not a quick fix. We're going to get started with your care on day two. And again, for those of you on the call that do provide some form of treatment, if you will, on day one, I would encourage you that as much as you want to see these new patients and you want to help them out, we want to serve them. If you ever went to a high-level health practitioner, orthopedic surgeon, if you ever went to even some sort of a physio, if you ever went to some sort of a doctor who's going to do an examination on you and set you up for any level of treatment, if you went to an oncologist who diagnosed you with some sort of a cancer in the medical system, it would be unheard of for you to expect that you're going to receive your treatment on the first day. If you went in and saw your orthopedic surgeon and he diagnosed or she diagnosed an ACL injury and did an MRI and said, well, we're going to do surgery, just go ahead in the other room, put your gown on, we're going to do surgery right now. That's unheard of. Everybody knows, anybody in their right mind knows that that's not going to happen. So for you to do a thorough exam, find the cause of the problem, and then let that person go. And even if you scheduled it for later on in the same day, at least allow yourself to go over their file, to go over their exam findings, talk to the person after their exam on some level, whether it's that night, whether you schedule them the next day, but make sure there's a time break between the day one and the day two. To provide treatment on the first day is a total incongruency and total practice killer. So I'm going to encourage you guys, if anybody's doing that, that is absolutely something to start to change. Objection measurement. So there has to be something on day one where you're measuring an objective measurement. So whether it's an angle on an X-ray, whether it's a posture unit where you're measuring like bilateral scales or shoulder heights or pelvic unleveling and pelvic heights, something that you can measure and quantify that you can actually remeasure at the re-exams and compare back to show that person that there is some change there is some corrective change. It takes, again, the mentality off of that pain model. A nerve scan could be range of motion as long as you're using an objective tool to measure range of motion and you can quantify that range of motion. So anything that you can show the person of how they're progressing, that's, again, really, really important. When we get to day two, as far as, again, this is all about lead conversion, we get to day two, this is the delivery of the first adjustment. This is the delivery of the first correction. So again, we want to make sure we pre-frame this by saying, we have found the cause of your problem. I know you came in with headaches. I know you came in with back pain. I know you came in with sciatica, but that is not the problem. That is the symptom. The cause of the problem is this. It's in the spine. Those nerves are affected. And my concern is the fact that this is worse than what we thought at the beginning. This, if you have subluxation, there's degeneration there, there's disc degeneration, you have an abnormal curve in your neck, you have a scoliosis in your spine, your pelvis is unlevel. This is a problem. We have to get to the cause of this problem, because if we don't, let's just say you covered this up with medication, which is a lot cheaper and a lot faster than what I can do. If you're just looking for pain relief, medication is a much more cost-effective and efficient way to go if that's all you're looking for. But if you want to correct the cause of this problem, then we have to get to the cause of this problem. It's going to take some time. This is a serious problem. It's going to take some time. So we get started with the first adjustment. And so we create concern, but we give hope. So, and we lay it out. The goal is to get to those re-examinations to see objectively how that person is changing, what's changing in their spine. So we ask the question. So the question is, on day two, are they ready to correct the cause, or would they just like to mask the symptom? Okay. And again, if the person says yes, they're ready to correct the cause, but they're not willing to jump onto a care plan or commit to a care plan that walks them through the process to correct the cause, then that's, again, is an incongruency. So we have to ask questions. If they say, yes, I want to correct the cause, but I only want to pay as I go, that's an incongruency. So that makes me ask the question, are you really truly committed to correcting the cause, or do you really truly understand how severe this is? Or do you understand why I'm so concerned about this problem? Because if you don't spend the time to correct this cause, is this getting better or worse? So creating that concern on day two is absolutely important. Now, a lot of you are doing your report of findings on day two, and many people get great responses by doing a day one, day two procedure. But if your goal is to build a big family practice, if your goal is to have families, to get referrals, to have people as warriors in your office, then we have to spread the nurture time out into the day three. And that's where day two becomes the bridge between day one and day three. It's the courtship. So if we bring them to day three, we can use a live video. We can use a video procedure. And I would say that's a nice next step if you're not doing anything like that. But better would be a live doctor's report. And because here's the thing, is that I would say the day three is not a method to sign them on to care. It's a method to change their thinking. Day three is the inspirational report where you tap into their emotions, you change their paradigm, you change their thinking so that they own now the principle of chiropractic, and they know that this is a better way for them. It not only changes their approach to healthcare, it changes their whole thinking of their life. And that's the difference. So if you want to create warrior people, warrior patients who really promote the principle of chiropractic, this is where the doctor's report can be so helpful. So if you're just wanting to sign people on for chiropractic care and get them to sign on to care plans, you can do a one-on-one report of findings, and it's very effective. And you can grow a very healthy practice by just doing that. But if you're really interested in changing lives and seeing people's paradigm shift, the live doctor's report is the way to go. So it's an inspirational report. And then when you show them their x-rays, you appeal to their logical thinking. You can show them pre and post x-rays. You can show them where the problems are in their spine. You can show them what a normal looks like, and then you can show them where they are. Okay. Business thinking. Now, stack the care plan. So when we come down to fulfillment and delivery, here's a big thing is that we talked about the 4 pillars of business. So lead generation, lead conversion, fulfillment and delivery, which again includes price. And then also the 4th thing is retention. So when it comes down to fulfillment and delivery, stacking a care plan. So not just a chiropractic corrective care plan, but adding home care. Now, why do you want to add home care? Well, for those of you who don't add home care or don't do it consistently, home care does a couple of things. First of all, it helps the patient get better and faster results. Number 2, it actually monetizes. You're adding an amount of money, a monetary amount to the care plan, so it's going to increase your collections. But number 3, it engages the person in their care. It gives them responsibility. So it takes the onus off of the doctor. So they're not blaming you if they don't get better, and they're not crediting you if they get better. It's now a team effort. So, and it gives them something to follow up on at home, and it gives you something to follow up on to make sure that they're committing and they're doing this home care in conjunction with their chiropractic adjustments. So I would encourage you guys, if you don't do home care for every patient, if not close to every patient, implement that. Implement something. And if it's not a complete home care kit, it's at least rolls or at least a traction unit or at least a wobble, something that they can take home and commit to doing on a regular basis. Okay. And here's the other thing too, when you start stacking care plans, so you may add home care, you might add a nutrition plan to your care plan, maybe a weight loss plan, and you might add some sort of symptom management. So a lot of offices do symptom management, not at the expense of correcting subluxation, but in addition to. So it might be a corrective care chiropractic care plan in conjunction with soft wave or in conjunction with decompression or in conjunction with laser or whatever it is you use to help manage that patient's acute or initial symptoms. And that can be very valuable. It can be valuable for the patient because it gives them big wins. They feel better, but it can also be valuable for you because it brings in that extra stream of income. And when you start building a practice where you have these additional streams of income, again, that's the sign of a wealthy and healthy practice because it doesn't 100% depend on you. So from a state of a business standpoint, a practice that has multiple streams of income that are not 100% doctor dependent. So here's the big thing is start analyzing all the things that you do in your practice, especially for those of you who are solo docs with 1 CA or just a couple of CAs, you don't have associates, you're doing everything. But where you can start identifying things that you're doing that don't make you money, that are outside of your scope, that are outside of adjusting people, which is really what you're licensed for, you're trained for, and what makes you money. But even when it comes down to doing examinations, the administrative stuff, all of the stuff that you're doing currently to manage your office, start putting people and delegating people in place to do those things. And that's going to serve you so well. Because if you can pay somebody $20, $25 an hour to do the things that you're currently doing that are demanding your time, now you can take that time and you can start to build your online presence more. You can start to create videos, or you can start to create things that are going to get your online presence more valuable. or you can spend more time or consistent time adjusting people. You can condense your adjusting hours because you're just focused on adjusting and you can see the same people in a lesser amount of time. Now you have more time with your family. That serves you well. And you can't serve your people well if you don't keep filling up your own cup. So look for ways you can start filling up your own cup. And by delegating people to do the things that are taking you away from your most valuable stuff, that's where you got to spend your time and start thinking about changing things. Okay. All right. Keep the stats. So know your numbers. We talk all the time about, having a spreadsheet. And I would say, if you don't do anything else after this call, get a staff member and delegate a staff member to start keeping stats. The number of new Ps, the number of day ones, the number of day twos, the number of day threes, the number of conversions, the number of those people that get to the first re-exam, and then the number of people that get to the re-sign. So ideally, if I have a 4-month care plan, all of my new patients in September, if I have 40 new patients in September, then when it comes to January at re-sign time, then I should have 40 re-signs. Where are the drop-offs? Because when I keep good stats, I can know where the bottlenecks and where the weaknesses are in my practice. LTV is so important. So how do you increase LTV, which is lifetime value of a patient? Increase your conversion percentage. And again, remember to calculate LTV is the total monthly collections. So let's say it's 50,000 a month and you have 50 new patients, then your LTV is $1,000. How do I increase that? Well, I increase the conversion percentage. So the more new patients that are actually converting onto care plans. So instead of 50%, maybe I get it up to 60 or 70%. That's going to increase my LTV. If I can increase my retention, so the amount of time that those new patients will stay in my office, they're going to spend more money over that longer period of time. That increases my LTV. Or I could change my fees and my pricing to have them spend more. Maybe they start stacking care plans. They buy my nutrition package. They pay for home care equipment. They may jump into another symptom management type of package. So that again increases LTV. So these are all things, again, to start to pay attention to. All right. So does what you're doing on a day-to-day basis match your vision? Are you adjusting to correct subluxation if that's what your vision is? Or are you doing a lot of soft tissue? Are you treating symptoms? So if somebody comes in with a leg pain or a knee problem, are you massaging the leg and stretching the hamstrings, or are you actually adjusting spine? So start questioning, is my delivery of what I believe in congruent with my philosophy, congruent with my vision? And am I delivering that type of care? What is your official capacity? Start figuring out what is your official capacity. So based on the number of hours you work now versus the number of people that you can see in those hours, are you at the capacity? Do you have times where you stand around? Is it worthwhile condensing those hours? Or ask yourself, why am I standing around? Why do I not have an office full of people during the times that I'm there? Or are there other times where you're busting at the seams and overflowing? We need to start addressing these things and start making the patient experience great, but also making sure that we can deliver great quality care all the time, 24/7, whenever our office is open. Okay. And can you hire somebody to do all the non-chiro type of stuff? Can you train a person to be your texier and do the full exam for you? So you would walk in and spend 3 minutes or 5 minutes with a new patient as opposed to 40 minutes. Very valuable stuff. Last pillar, retention strategies. So do we talk about lifetime care in the conversion process? So are we talking about subluxation, and do we have a subluxation prevention plan? Do we talk about our subluxation prevention plan as opposed to our wellness plan? Everybody uses a wellness plan. The medical doctors now talk about wellness. So let's try to be very specific and say, if we taught them about subluxation and the severity of subluxation, and we're here to correct subluxation, now we create a subluxation prevention plan so that they can come on some sort of a regular basis to get those subluxations corrected and keep them away, prevent them from happening. Do we have systems for families getting checked? So how often are you asking, if your really goal is to see families, how often are you asking that families come in and receive care? So, at the end of doctor's report or when that person signs on, do you have a policy in your office that, okay, now that you're signed on, let's set the time up for your family to come in and get checked? And we've removed all the barriers. There's no fee for your children to come in and get checked. That doesn't mean that they need to start care. But here's a big thing. If you're there to correct spines, and we all know, people that have children, and genetics play a huge part in health, in disease, in dysfunction. I mean, that's a huge part. And people understand that and people know that. There's a larger part of lifestyle, but there is the genetic component. Posture and spinal curvatures are very genetic. So if you have a patient that has a alordotic cervical curve, if you have a patient that has a scoliotic spine, if you have a patient that has pelvic unleveling or rotation, it's more than likely that their kids either have that or are developing that. So to explain that to every single patient and make sure that's the reason why their kids need to get checked, wouldn't they want to know now before that problem becomes symptomatic or before that problem causes disease, rather than later when it's too late and then it becomes a medical emergency? And that's a great way to pre-frame it. So, if any patient that you have is coming in for any type of corrective care, if they have offspring, those offspring need to be checked for just that reason. So we talk about lifetime care, family, and again, your team and your team's family should all be under care. They should all be on care plans. They should know when their next re-examination is. They should know when their next re-x-ray is. If you don't take care of your team like the way that you want to take care of your patients, that's incongruency. Create the culture. So make it exciting. Make your office exciting. People get bored. They're coming in, 36 times in the first 3 months. Make it exciting for them to come in. So constant, regular events are huge. Any type of monthly talks that you can do to get people to, whether it's a nutrition talk, a weight loss talk, a reduce your stress talk, maybe you'll talk about the supplement of the month, and that turns into selling more nutritional supplements, whatever that is. But again, it creates a culture. People want information. They starve for information, and they can find it on the internet, but they can't get the culture and the personality that you would bring to doing a live talk on the internet. So start adding things in your office. Maybe you've got team members that have a passion for nutrition. Maybe you've got team members that have a passion for exercise. They could lead an exercise class once a week. They could start doing talks, nutrition talks or supplement talks, or maybe they're salespeople for some sort of essential oil. Even something like that can be helpful because, again, it creates some energy and creates the culture in your office. So having dinners, bringing in guest speakers, having kids' days, partnering with the fire department or partnering with the children's ID department at the police station, where they would come in and actually fingerprint children to create a record for them at the police station. These things can be really helpful, and it shows your community involvement. Have the lifetime wellness care plan and talk about it with patients. So have that option. A lifetime wellness care plan basically is a recurring locked-in plan that patients can commit to, and their plan never changes. You want to create a great lifetime wellness patient, give them the opportunity to lock in their plan at a certain fee for the duration of their lifetime, and that it would only change if they ever decided to quit care. In Alcoholics Anonymous, there's a 12-step recovery program, and you never get through the entire program. You don't graduate from the program without doing all 12 steps. But the 12th and most important step of the 12-step Alcoholics Anonymous program is refer another alcoholic to the program. And we relate that to chiropractic and the fact that patients are not truly warrior patients until they've referred somebody else. So the question is at every doctor's report, at every talk, at every event, a dinner, whatever that was, the question was always, who were you thinking of when we were talking about subluxation? Who were you thinking of when we were talking about causes of cancer? Who were you thinking of when we were talking about medications that cause side effects, or heart disease medications that cause side effects? Who were you thinking of? They're the people that you need to reach out to. And when you can capture people when they're emotional, when they're involved, when they're engaged in what you're delivering, and they're thinking about somebody else, that's when you stimulate them to refer. And so asking that question consistently, they come in and have a great adjustment, or they come in and say their headaches are gone. Hey, who does that make you think of? Who do you know that's been having headaches like you were having that could benefit from coming in and getting their spine adjusted? So asking these things. One thing again that I would encourage you to do is pre-frame this. There's always going to be that patient that quits care. And it might be the long-term patient or the lifetime patient that you thought was going to be with you to the day that you retire or the day that you die. Or there's those patients that maybe start care with good intentions but don't follow through. Ask for an exit interview. From a business perspective, this is one of the best things that you can do, because people that quit for a reason. And as a good business owner, you want to know the reason. So giving them a call and saying, hey, I just want to know what went wrong. Where did we fail you? Where do you feel we dropped the ball? And when you start gaining these knowledgeable things, when people can share with you why they stopped, and it might just be their own concerns, but there may be something that comes up that you can address within your team, within your systems, within your procedures, within your culture, within your delivery of what your system, that only helps you get better. So asking for that exit interview is a huge growth for your culture and for your business in your office. All right. So just end on the fact that, when it comes to practice, remember that we can be so consumed with saving humanity, and one of the most common things when people go to chiropractic school, when they have the interview to go to chiropractic school, why do you want to become a chiropractor? Well, I want to help people. And we get into practice and we're so excited to serve, and we're so excited to really see people's lives change and transform lives. But the most important person is you. You have to make sure that your practice is serving you. And if you haven't addressed the principles that grow a good business in your practice or transform your practice into a business, I've seen so many of my colleagues burn out, get depressed, get frustrated, and that turns into bad relationships. It turns into sickness. It turns into death and disease. And we've just seen that happen just recently. So take care of yourself first. Let your practice be the vehicle that serves you, so therefore you can fill your cup and serve others. And when you can start serving you, your family benefits, your relationships benefit, everybody around you benefits in a much bigger way. Guys, I love you. I hope this has helped. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.